Ontario's wildfire emergency is becoming increasingly serious as new fires continue to ignite across the province and several major blazes remain completely out of control. According to the evening update issued on July 18th, Ontario had 197 active wildland fires. Of those, 137 were burning in the northwest region, while another 60 were active across the northeast. At least 10 fires in the northeast were still classified as not under control. These numbers reveal just how unusual and destructive the 2026 fire season has already become. At this stage of the year, Ontario's 10-year average is approximately 339 fires. However, by July 18th, authorities had already recorded 537 fires inside the province's fire region. At the same point last year, Ontario had recorded 349 fires. The amount of land burned is even more alarming. Premier Doug Ford said wildfires have already burned more land in Ontario this year than during the entire 2025 season, when nearly 600,000 hectares were affected. What makes that especially concerning is that Ontario is only entering the most dangerous part of its traditional wildfire season. Peak fire conditions usually occur from the middle of July through August. That means the province could still face several more weeks of hot temperatures, dry vegetation, thunderstorms, lightning, and unpredictable winds. The center of the current emergency remains northwestern Ontario, particularly the enormous boreal forest stretching west and north of Thunder Bay toward Manitoba. Some of the most heavily affected areas include the Thunder Bay, Nipigon, Sioux Lookout, Red Lake, Dryden, and Fort Frances fire districts. These regions contain large areas of remote forest, isolated communities, provincial parks, lakes, and limited transportation infrastructure. That geography makes firefighting and evacuation operations extremely difficult. Some communities can only be reached by air or water, meaning residents may have very few evacuation options when flames or heavy smoke approach. The largest and most destructive fire currently being monitored is Thunder Bay 36. This is not a conventional single fire. It is a merged wildfire complex that began inside Wabakimi Provincial Park on July 12th. After spreading rapidly and joining with other fire activity, the complex grew to approximately 318,813 hectares. Thunder Bay 36 has already affected Armstrong and threatened White Sand First Nation. It also destroyed homes and community buildings at Neskantaga area communities, including the remote Oji Cree community, commonly known as Collins First Nation. Because no permanent road connects the community with the rest of the province, some residents reportedly had to escape by boat without immediate assistance from conventional emergency services. An incident management team has now taken control of the response to Thunder Bay 36. However, poor visibility and unsafe flying conditions have prevented crews from conducting a complete aerial assessment of the fire's perimeter. That means its precise size and recent growth may not yet be fully known. Rainfall has temporarily reduced some of the fire's activity, but officials continue to warn that the danger remains extremely high throughout the affected area. The fire is still active, immense, and capable of becoming more aggressive if conditions deteriorate again. Farther south, authorities are closely watching a dangerous cluster of fires in the Fort Frances district, especially those located near major transportation corridors. Fort Frances 14 has been remapped to approximately 51,086 hectares. Its northern perimeter is roughly 5 kilometers southwest of the Trans-Canada Highway, while its southern edge is around 9 kilometers north of Highway 11. Its proximity to these highways creates a serious threat to travelers, emergency operations, and critical infrastructure. Anyone planning to drive through the area should check official road conditions immediately before leaving, because closures can be introduced with very little warning. Fort Frances 15 is also creating significant concern. This fire has grown to approximately 48,261 hectares, with its northern perimeter reaching within about 1.5 kilometers of Highway 11. That is an extremely short distance for a large, uncontrolled wildfire, especially if stronger winds begin pushing the flames toward the highway. There has been at least one encouraging development in this district. Fort Frances 38, a considerably smaller fire measuring approximately 44 hectares, is now classified as being held. A fire listed as being held is not necessarily extinguished. It means firefighters have established enough control that the blaze is not expected to spread beyond its existing boundaries under the current conditions. In the Red Lake district, Red Lake 24 remains out of control. Earlier estimates placed it near 3,079 hectares, but subsequent information showed it had expanded to approximately 5,683 hectares. Red Lake 23 is also active and not under control, adding another 638 hectares of fire to the district. Ground crews and aircraft are continuing suppression operations wherever conditions allow them to work safely. Meanwhile, a new wave of fire activity has emerged in the Nipigon district. Nipigon 69 was reported at approximately 2,142 hectares near Vic Lake and remained uncontrolled. Nipigon 71 was burning across roughly 200 hectares in the northeastern section of Wabakimi Provincial Park, while Nipigon 75 had reached approximately 40 hectares northwest of Marten Falls First Nation. Several other new Nipigon fires were also confirmed during the same period. In total, 8 new fires were detected in northwestern Ontario in a single day. That rapid increase demonstrates how quickly the situation can change. Even while crews are working to contain existing fires, lightning can create multiple new emergencies across remote areas within hours. There are also several older and larger uncontrolled fires in the Nipigon district. Nipigon 45 has grown to approximately 10,000 hectares. Nipigon 36 is around 1,200 hectares. Nipigon 37 is approximately 911 hectares. Nipigon 50 is near 730 hectares, and Nipigon 38 is close to 488 hectares. All of these fires were still classified as not under control. The Dryden district is facing an equally serious situation. Dryden 34 has expanded to approximately 45,689 hectares and remains uncontrolled. It has been active since July 14 and is one of the largest individual fires in the province, behind the massive Thunder Bay 36 complex. Dryden 35 is burning across another 20,234 hectares, while Dryden 36 has added approximately 1,762 hectares. Together, these 3 fires represent more than 67,000 hectares of uncontrolled wildfire activity in the Dryden district alone. The Sioux Lookout district is also experiencing widespread fire activity, with at least 7 separate fires listed as not under control. Sioux Lookout 72 is the largest at approximately 20,800 hectares. Sioux Lookout 71 has reached about 13,744 hectares, while Sioux Lookout 89 is burning across roughly 7,190 hectares. Sioux Lookout 86 and Sioux Lookout 84 together account for more than 10,000 additional hectares. Sioux Lookout 64, active since July 10th, has grown to approximately 3,056 hectares, while Sioux Lookout 66 is around 817 hectares. Combined, the uncontrolled fires in the Sioux Lookout district cover more than 55,000 hectares. 2 additional fires in the Thunder Bay district must also be monitored closely. Thunder Bay 56 has expanded to approximately 10,990 hectares, while Thunder Bay 54 is burning across roughly 7,859 hectares. Both fires were first confirmed on July 14th and remained out of control. The emergency is not limited to the far northwest. Smaller fires have appeared around North Bay in northeastern Ontario. North Bay 27 was reported at approximately 13.8 hectares, while North Bay 31 covered about 3.1 hectares. Although these fires are relatively small, both were classified as not under control. Across the entire northeast region, 60 wildland fires remained active as of the July 18 evening report. 10 were not under control, 7 were being held, and 12 were listed as under control, with the remaining incidents at other stages of management or observation. One fire receiving particular attention is Wawa 17, located approximately 15 kilometers northeast of Pic-Mobert and east of White Lake. 3 fire ranger crews were initially assigned to the incident, with a 4th scheduled to support suppression efforts. Temporary helipads have been established so personnel and equipment can reach the area. Rainfall helped reduce fire behavior, and officials reported no additional growth despite strong winds. That is encouraging, but crews must continue monitoring the area because conditions can change quickly. Wawa 28 was also newly confirmed. It was initially very small, measuring approximately 1 hectares and located about 17 kilometers northeast of Missinaibi, west of Mississauga Provincial Park. Although small fires may appear insignificant compared with the enormous complexes burning elsewhere, every major wildfire begins as a small ignition. Reaching these fires early is essential, particularly during a period when firefighting resources are already under pressure. For the people living in threatened areas, this is much more than an environmental emergency. It is a humanitarian crisis involving evacuations, property damage, disrupted travel, and uncertainty about when residents will be able to return home. Mandatory evacuation orders have affected Armstrong, White Sand First Nation, Collins First Nation, and several other Indigenous communities in northern Ontario. Residents covered by mandatory orders should follow instructions from local leaders and emergency authorities immediately. Waiting until flames or heavy smoke arrive can make roads, waterways, and flight operations unsafe. A reception center has been established at the Fort William Gardens Arena in Thunder Bay. The The facility is providing sleeping arrangements, food, drinking water, hygiene supplies, medical assistance, and accommodation for pets. Other areas remain under evacuation alerts. An alert does not necessarily mean residents must leave immediately, but it means everyone should be prepared to evacuate with very little notice. People in an alert zone should collect medications, identification, passports, insurance information, chargers, clothing, and other essential supplies. Vehicles should have enough fuel, and families should create a clear plan for children, older relatives, pets, and neighbors who may require assistance. Travel restrictions are also affecting large parts of northwestern Ontario. An implementation order is in place around Fort Frances 14, restricting access to numerous roads and areas of Crown land. Portions of highways 527 and 599 have also been closed, while Wabakimi Provincial Park has temporarily shut down because of the extreme wildfire danger. Road conditions can change rapidly depending on smoke, fire movement, and emergency operations. Travelers should rely on official provincial sources rather than navigation applications, which may not immediately display new wildfire-related closures. Pilots and drone operators must also stay away from active wildfire zones. Unauthorized aircraft can force water bombers and firefighting helicopters to leave the area. Even a small recreational drone can interrupt aerial suppression during a critical period and place pilots, firefighters, and nearby communities in greater danger. Ontario has expanded its restricted fire zones in response to the emergency. The Northwest region has been under a restricted fire zone since July 15th. On July 18th, restrictions were extended into a large portion of the Northeast, including areas of the Cochrane, Sudbury, and Algoma districts. The expanded zone stretches from the Lake Superior area east toward the Ontario-Quebec border and includes Lake Superior Provincial Park. Open-air burning and campfires are prohibited inside a restricted fire zone. Existing burning permits are suspended. Portable propane or gas stoves may still be permitted, but they must be handled with extreme care. The firefighting response has grown substantially. More than 150 crews have reportedly been deployed across northern Ontario, supported by over 80 aircraft, including helicopters, water bombers, and aerial coordination planes. Provincial incident management teams have also been assigned to the Thunder Bay and Fort Frances sectors. Additional assistance is arriving through Canada's mutual aid system. Alberta has sent firefighters, support personnel, and aircraft, while Yukon has offered more equipment and resources. Federally funded helicopters have also been deployed, and Indigenous Services Canada is assisting affected First Nations. The operational priorities remain clear: protect firefighters, protect communities, defend critical infrastructure, and contain new fires before they can grow into major incidents. Crews cannot always attack an enormous wildfire directly. When flames become too intense or conditions become unsafe, firefighters may withdraw and work from more defensible positions. This is a necessary safety decision, particularly in remote areas with limited escape routes. Recent rainfall has provided temporary relief. Around Fort Frances 14 and 15, rain, weaker winds, and higher humidity reduced fire behavior and limited growth. Thunder Bay 36 also showed lower activity following precipitation, while Wawa 17 reportedly experienced no further expansion. However, rainfall does not mean these fires are under control. Vegetation can dry again quickly when temperatures rise, humidity drops, and winds strengthen. Thunderstorms can also create new fires through lightning, even when they bring rain to other locations. Smoke remains another major concern. Wildfire smoke can travel hundreds or even thousands of kilometers, reducing visibility and creating dangerous air quality far from the flames. Thunder Bay continued to face poor air quality and periods of sharply reduced visibility, while smoke affected communities throughout Ontario and parts of the United States. When smoke is heavy, residents should close windows and doors, use a properly fitted N95 or KN95 mask outdoors, and operate HEPA air filtration indoors when available. Older adults, pregnant people, infants, young children, and anyone with asthma, heart disease, or chronic respiratory conditions face the greatest risk. The next several days will be critical. Forecast thunderstorms could deliver helpful rainfall, but they may also produce lightning and start additional fires. Changing winds could push smoke into areas that have only recently experienced cleaner air. Ontario's wildfire crisis is far from over. New fires are still emerging. Several enormous blazes remain uncontrolled, and the province has not yet moved beyond the peak period of its fire season. If you live in or plan to travel through northern Ontario, monitor official emergency alerts, evacuation information, highway closures, and provincial wildfire updates. Conditions mentioned in this report can change within hours. To the firefighters, pilots, emergency workers, and community leaders operating under dangerous conditions, thank you for your continued work. And to every family forced from their home or waiting for news about their community, the entire country is watching this emergency unfold. Stay informed, remain prepared, and most importantly, stay safe.